Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this chat that we're having with Rukayat, one of Global Skills Hub's um, famous success stories. We've had the pleasure of having her in our community for a while, and her story was inspiring and interesting for everyone. And we decided to have a chat with her for a couple of reasons. Number one, we always like to know and learn more about the people in our community, learn about their journey, learn from you, and possibly there might be some learnings to pass on to other people who would be in your shoes hopefully soon, Rukayat. So that's, I guess, why we've set up this chat. I think we have already some people from the community joined in. But it also will be a recorded session, so we'll try to kind of edit it and share it with the community as well, so for anyone to take a look at later on. So yeah, that's what this call is about. And basically, I think it makes sense just for you to just tell us, where did this all start? How did you get to know us? What happened? Why did you join this community? What happened?
Okay. Again, my name is Rukayat. I'm from Nigeria. Lived in Nigeria for the most part. I came to Canada in November 2018. Before then, I was working at a company called Andela in what was a software engineering fellowship program. And I did it for 4 years, but I finished just before 4 years. And towards the end of the fellowship program, I started thinking what the next step was. By the way, the fellowship program was supposed to train engineers to be world-class software engineers. And so I started thinking what was the next step for me, considering I was getting to the tail end of the fellowship. And I realized that I told myself that if I truly wanted to be a world-class software engineer, then I can't do that from that one corner of the earth I'm sitting on in Lagos, Nigeria. I had to see the world. I had to experience different engineering teams. And so I decided I was going to move from Nigeria. Canada is pretty open and friendly with the immigration process. And so long before I met Global Skills Hub, my friend and I, Mariam Babalala, she's also in the Global Skills Hub community. Yeah, so we decided we're moving to Canada, and we started planning towards that, getting our IELTS ready, all the required documentation and all. And somewhere along the line, I've gotten a couple of messages from GSH CEO via, I think it was LinkedIn or my email. Okay. But somehow I skipped it. Wow. I've gotten a couple of messages from both Louisa and Yusuf, and then I skipped it. I thought it was just one of those random LinkedIn messages. Everybody wants to hire you to build Uber or Facebook or something, and so I just struck it out. And yeah, I was focused on moving to Canada on my own, and Louisa had also reached out to Mariam.
Okay.
Mariam started out the process first, and she told me about it, and she introduced me she did an email introduction to Louisa. And I still wasn't taking it serious because I just didn't think that a company would offer to move you from one country to the other, set you up with engineering companies, move you down to that country, get you relocated at no cost to you, except that you have to pay your airfare down to the country and all. Like, it didn't add up to me, so I wasn't bothering. But then Mariam started the process, and then she got an offer with Wave. And then it became real to me. And I'm like, okay, I think I have to pay more attention to Global Skills Hub. I did all the preliminary testing stages, and Global Skills Hub set me up with a company. That's the company I'm working with. It's the first and only company Global Skills set me up with. I'd later find out that some of my other colleagues back at Andela had also I'd been set up with multiple companies, but I was lucky to get in with the first company I was set up with. That was Influitive. That's Influitive. It's a company I work with now. We're a technology company here, and I did enjoy the interview process. The company was receptive to feedback, to my feedback from even at the interview stage when I wasn't even an employee. I gave feedback about the process. They took it back, worked on it, and I knew at that point that I wanted to be part of the Influitive company, and it went well. I got the job. 1 minute I was thinking the fellowship program is coming to an end. I don't have the job offer yet. The next minute I got the job. 2 weeks after I'm processing my visa. 2 weeks after I'm in Canada, and then everything happened so fast. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a journey, and I'm sure there must have been a lot of points where challenges came up, and then things obviously moved in the right direction for you. So I'm happy that you got a great result. And one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning, when you were talking about your journey, you said you and your friend Mariam decided that we're moving to Canada. So there was a decision made, and I really like that. I think one of the things that really affects your results is how determined you are, and just the way you pronounced. You said that, I think to me, said that you already had your mindset, and the verbiage you used showed that, and I think that's one of the reasons that you got such a quick turnover on this process. So I'm really happy, and it seems like you found a great place to be. Looks like you found the right place right from the first try, and I'm happy with that. That's usually not the case. But I'm happy that it happened for you. So that's really good. So tell me a little bit, Rukayat, about the actual application process. A lot of people always ask us, so what does it look like? Trust me, we're trying to work to make this clear and clarify it for everyone. But what does the application process look like? And both in terms of when you applied to GSH, and then how did it look like with Influitive?
Okay, applying to GSH first was I started with communicating with Louisa. When I decided to start, I communicated with Louisa, exchanged a couple of emails about myself and my career journey so far, and she had then set up a call. So Louisa is, for those who don't know, Louisa is a talent rep, yeah, and so
she's our talent ambassador.
Yeah. And so basically, she'd set up a call with you to understand what your journey is like, what kind of opportunities you're looking for, tell you more about GSH, and also ensure she has your skill sets properly documented to help match you up with the right kind of opportunities you're looking for. After that was done, there was the technical verification stage. Following the process now, I think it's taken a bit of time. People write tests now. It was a bit different in my time, but there's a technical verification stage before GSH puts people in the pool. They want to verify that they're actually what they put on their resume, and after that, it was basically you'd wait. You do a bit more documentation, build up your profile, and then you'd wait while GSH matches you up with company. To the best of my knowledge, that's my understanding. GSH matches you up with company who've seen your profile and are interested. So there's the applicant's part, and there's also the company part. They get to see your profile, they're interested based off of what's listed on your resume, and they signify interest in interviewing you. And you either begin to speak to the company directly or through GSH. And I spoke to for the most part, I spoke to Influitive directly.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay. How was the process there? Was it difficult? Was it challenging? How many steps did you take with them? What did it look like for you?
So it was I had the first call with one of the directors of engineering who wanted to understand also my career journey so far and to see how it fits into what they needed at that point in time. And afterwards, uh, I was told that I'll go through the main interview stage, which is basically a 3-1 process. Um, it's usually half day long if people do it on site, but I was doing it over the call, so it was supposed to be about 3 hours long. So there's basically the pair programming stage. The pair program with a senior engineer for an hour. After that, you do a whiteboarding session with another senior engineer for about an hour, and then you speak to someone in the technical leadership position in the company. And so the different people you speak with get different understanding of your different skill sets and give feedback back to HR and say what they think and your decisions made from there. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. That was in your case. Obviously, was all great. Was there any part of the process that scared you or made you, or you didn't expect, or was like super difficult for you, really challenging?
Not difficult, more like I was a bit hesitant because in the first call with the director of engineering, I'd found out that the company writes Ruby on Rails mostly on the back end, and I'd spoken to I forget her name now. She's the VP of growth or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I spoke to her about it.
On our team or on
Yes,
Influitive?
on the GSH team. Ivana. Yeah, I spoke to Ivana about it. That was my major concern because before Influitive, I'd written more JavaScript, a bit of Golang, and a bit of Python. And so Ruby on Rails was strange to me. The director had insisted that if I joined the team, I'd be doing a lot more back-end work and Ruby on Rails. And I was concerned that if I was hired as an experienced engineer, they'd probably expect that I'm giving out Ruby on Rails code like from my first day at work, and I was hesitant. Truthfully, I didn't think I wanted to go through with the process, but Ivana did encourage me to go on with it. In the pair programming stage, I felt like I didn't do anything there. I had the idea of what it is I wanted to do, but I didn't understand the programming language enough to write the code myself. So I made reference to documentations a lot during the process. But what I made sure I did was for everything I wanted to write, I explained my thought process to the engineer.
Okay.
And so it goes back to saying this whole coding thing is not just about you writing long lines of code. It's about you having the ability to solve the problem actually. So what I think I get from this in the end is it wasn't about me writing the code at that point in time, but wanting to understand what my thought process was. I wanted to approach solving the task I was given at that point in time. And after that session, the HR manager had reached out to me asking how it went. And I'd given my feedback that while I think it was a good one, I didn't feel comfortable that I wasn't allowed to put my best foot forward and write in a language I was familiar with. And surprisingly, I was taken back when he responded apologizing that I was made to write in a language I wasn't familiar with. And I was given the same task to go do it our own in any language I wanted to and send it back. So that was me giving feedback to the HR that I wanted to, applicants should be made to put their best foot forward when they're interviewing. What you should be looking out for is problem solving skills rather than someone who can write one language better than any other. And they took that feedback and worked on it, and I was really impressed.
Wow.
And so that was the early stage of the whole process that I was hesitant about. After that, yeah, I knew I wanted to be here.
You knew it. Okay. I mean, sounds like you had quite a journey, a lot of and it's not unexpected, right? I think everyone feels that pressure, feels the challenges, and I think the key here is that I think you had a great approach on how you dealt with the situation, and I think your perseverance and your grit really paid off, and you were able to at the end crack that process. I think your approach to the challenge was also correct. Definitely, everyone is looking for. I think everyone should be looking for what your thought process is, and how you solve a problem, or how do you approach a challenge that maybe you haven't seen before. So I think you're definitely right there, and I hope everyone who's kind of in Rukayat's shoes, doing technical interviews, I think this is what you should be focused on. Really good, really good. And I think there was a bunch of questions related to this from the community as well, Adeline, right? So I think a lot of people were concerned about. Was there any questions regarding the interview process?
One moment. Yes. So, what was your approach regarding the coding interview, and which are the best learning sources and references? That's all I have got about the interview.
Okay, so this was a question from someone from our community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And how
so
did you prepare for interviews? That's what they're all concerned about.
Okay, good question.
For interviewing, so outside of the other skills I've done a bit of interviewing, applying on my own. Like I said, I knew I wanted to move to Canada, so I was applying on my own. And for most of my interviews, for most of the other interviews, they were a lot more focused on things like understanding of algorithms, data structures, and all. And books like, or resources like Cracking the Coding Interview did come in handy. So that particular book covers a lot about explaining algorithms, also data structures, also how, not just that, but also how to answer questions, answer technical interview questions, and also soft skills related questions for engineering position. So it's like an all-in-one book. It covers different aspects of technical interviews. That was my main practice resource because I wasn't familiar with how interviews in Canadian engineering teams work. So I had to make reference to that book because it seemed quite globally accepted. Yeah, that's the only resource I could point to actually.
Perfect. We're gonna share that resource with everyone in the community later on.
And actually have another question. What difference did you find between the Canadian interviews compared to your previous interviews?
Interesting.
So even within Canadian companies I interviewed with, I'd say it varied a lot. I think it depends on the kind of engineering culture each company has and what you're looking out for in your engineers. I think that I like to think that if you're looking for someone who is maybe just going to be a code monkey and just keep churning out code for you, you probably want to focus more on does this person have a great understanding of algorithms and all of that. I did such interviews. Also, if you're looking for an all-round good engineer, then you would it would be a process like Influitive, where there's a coding challenge to see how you approach coding tasks, and also a whiteboarding. Sorry, excuse me, a whiteboarding session. Thank you. The whiteboarding session where you have to you walk through with the engineer how you build an application from ground up, how you think of scaling it. That's not, at that point, you're not just writing code, but you're explaining how you want to build an application. You're giving an application and you're explaining through from the database modeling to how you're going to connect the different entities in the application, how you want to scale the application and all. And it would depend from company to company, irrespective of it being an engineering company in Nigeria or Canada or Germany or anywhere else. But the two styles I've explained are mostly what's common, at least from my interviewing experience.
Okay, interesting. So, I mean, we talked a lot about the interview, and I think it's challenging and you know, a big question mark for everyone. There's a lot of great resources. We'll try to capture some of these tips and tricks that Rukayat said, post it back to you in our community Slack, and probably maybe the newsletter or something. Adeline will figure out how to get to you. But I have a question for you, Rukayat. Why was there a reason that you specifically chose Canada and maybe you know, to relocate, or Canadian company? Was it because of the company, or was it, did you, because you already said you wanted to move to Canada, did you have a reason that you really preferred to move there?
Yeah, so for in Nigeria, when engineers from Nigeria want to relocate to other parts of the world, they're either thinking Europe, that's Germany, Berlin, Hamburg, or Amsterdam, or Finland, and then North America, they're thinking Canada, but a whole lot more people wanted to go to those European countries. But for me, it wasn't just about moving to where everyone else was moving to. I had things to consider, things like how easy would it be settling in a new environment? What are the things? You'll be settling into a new environment, you'll be settling into a new culture, you'll be settling into a new workplace. It's a whole lot of things you're settling into at once. I figured if I did move to say Berlin, for example, although English speaking to an extent, it's not the official language, yeah. There's a whole lot more to settle into at once. Canada seemed to be a better option in that front for me. Also, I considered the immigration process in different parts of the continent I was considering, and Canada did win on that one again. What else? Yeah, for me, those are the two things. How easily do you want to settle into the community, into your new environment, and also what's the process like? Just for more context, for those who don't know, it takes you less than 2 weeks to get a work permit and a work visa to Canada. I haven't seen any other country that does that yet.
That makes a big difference. And it's actually kind of a relatively new government program for people who are highly skilled, and awesome companies that have the ability to support them. So when there's that trust there, this kind of opportunity is you know, is doable, because there's people on both sides that know what they're doing, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it does make your life a lot easier. I think your choices were wise in terms of what you considered for doing that. I've been interacting with a lot of people in your shoes, thousands and thousands. And I think the way you have organized this in your mind, kind of the priorities you've had are 100% what everyone should be considering. And I think that's one of the reasons that you were successful so fast, because you had everything ready. Maybe, I don't know if you were 100% aware of what were the important things, but you had all the important things ready to go. So that's really good, and I'm happy for you. But I still have a question about your transition from Nigeria to Canada. Okay, so you chose Canada. Canada was your destination. It was clear from the beginning when you said, I'm going to Canada with Mariam, it was clear that this is your destination. But what was that transition like? Walk us through the journey. What were the feelings you had, the last days when you actually you know, when this actually started to get serious and you had to pack up and kind of say goodbye to some people and be ready for friends in a new place. Tell us, what was that journey like?
So the thing about relocation is you have to be mentally and psychologically prepared for it. And I still think that however way you prepare for it, you're still going to be in a bit of, I don't want to say shock, but you just can't be fully prepared for it, but still you need to be mentally and psychologically prepared for it. So like I said, before I moved to Canada, I told myself I wanted to move at least 11 months before. So I was building up to that moment already. And every energy was just channeled towards that. And I did tell my folks at home about it, and they were supportive. They encouraged me to go for it, and so that settled family. What else? Again, I had to ask myself, why did I want to move? And understood that it was the best thing for my career at that point in time. If you must truly be world class, then you have to experience all of the different engineering cultures as much as you can. And for me, the goal was to keep getting better and better at what I do. And so once you have that goal you're working towards, it might be a bit challenging or rough along the way, but keeping your eyes on that goal helps you get there irrespective of what's thrown at you.
That makes perfect sense. And again, as I said, you know, having that vision in mind, understanding what is required to actually pull this off, I think helps you greatly on this journey. How did it feel like when you actually got everything done, and you know, you knew that I'm going to Influitive, and this is going to be my home for a foreseeable future, and I'm moving to this new country. How did it feel? Were there any concerns, anything that you were really worried about?
No, I wasn't worried about anything. Well, thinking about it again, I was a bit concerned about what I was leaving behind in Nigeria. Before I left Nigeria, I used to run two technical communities, one within my former place of work, which I co-founded with another colleague of mine. It's called Ladies in Tech. It was basically to support ladies in technology within and outside of the company. Create a support system for us and have roundtable discussions, help ourselves to grow and all. I was concerned about continuity of that, but I got people to step up to take on the lead position because myself and my co-lead were also relocating at the same time. So that settled it. The second community was Lagos women in machine learning and data science. So outside of core software development, my major interest is machine learning and AI. So I ran a community around that. It's a women-led community, but for everyone, both male and female. And I was concerned about what the future of that would be like when myself and my colleague left, because I had another colleague for that community who was also relocating to go to graduate school at that point in time. So it was a bit difficult getting people to take up the reins to lead the community. We didn't find anyone till I left the country, and it was a bit sad. That I think that was the only part of moving that was sad for me. But interestingly, a couple of weeks ago, we finally found a couple of people to lead the community, and so I'm sure that whatever community my colleagues and I started before I left the country is still in safe hands, and moving on to create opportunities and impacts for people. So those were the hardest part about moving. Beyond that, every other thing I built up my mind for it from about 11 months before, so it was pretty easy to move.
Pretty easy to move. That's amazing. And I'm expecting maybe you're going to be starting some communities in the Toronto tech scene soon, right? So I think you've had the experience, and you know, why not? Why not do that?
Or you can even help me. I would really accept the help.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
sure.
go.
I'm trying to understand what the Toronto tech community looks like. Also interacting with females within my immediate workspace. I'm trying to see how we can get something going in-house first before moving externally. Yeah, but over time, hopefully something will consult of it.
Perfect. Sounds good. And when you moved to Canada, what was surprising for you? What was there anything that you were like, what's this? Like, I didn't expect this. Looks like there was.
Yes. I always knew that Canada was really cold, the weather, I mean. But I just didn't think that the sun would be shining and it would still be freezing at the same time. I think that was my biggest shock coming to Canada, the weather. I mean, after I experienced that, I did. I'm quite active on Twitter, and so I tweeted to everyone who wanted to come to Canada to be mentally prepared for the cold because it could mess you up. It could mess up your drive. It could test your drive and your will to want to stay in the country. But like beyond that, I think Canada is really is a really good place to be. And once you get used to the cold for a bit, it gets better. Yeah. Yeah, but the cold was really surprising at first.
That's good. You know, with some proper gear, I think you can get over it, right?
Sure.
Get used to it. That's good. That's good. Well, I'm happy that it looks like you had a smooth transition. And when you got there, what about finding a place or navigating your community, your neighborhood, finding friends? I mean, you already have a friend there, but you know, making other friends or building yourself like a network of peers. How did that go for you?
Yeah, I guess I was a bit lucky. I don't think other people get as lucky as I was. Miriam came in a month before me because she got the offer first. Her sister had also moved to Canada at about the same time, and so housing was a bit settled. So it was just getting used to navigating the city, getting all layered up to move around in the cold weather, and yeah, it wasn't so difficult for me. I do know that housing I mean, for every major city in the world, housing is usually accommodation. Getting an accommodation when you just move in is usually an issue, but there are housings you just have to know where to look, and you have to be strategic about where to pick your accommodation because of commute time. I think that was one of the issues I had at first till I discovered a better mode of transport. You want to make sure you cut your commute time short so that you're able to get to work in time, give in more at work, and get back home in time. You don't want to spend so much time commuting. Those were the things I had to bother about, but I found my way around those in the end.
Nice. Sounds good. And I know we have a few questions from the community. I'm going to ask Adeline to ask some of those from you in a few minutes. We've had a few, but we're going to select some of them. But before we get there, I mean, for me, I'm curious, and I'm pretty sure everyone else is. So now you're in your job, now you're settled, and you know, you're kind of doing your thing on a day-to-day basis. What does that look like? Walk us through what does a day or a week in your life look like? And what do you do? How do you spend your time?
So most on weekdays, actually, a large portion of my time is spent giving my employer value for the money they pay me. So I'm either working from the office or at home. yeah, either interacting with my teammates or coding. I mean, as an engineer, you're not just coding all the time. You have to interact with your teammates to know what it is you have to do, to plan the products you're supposed to work on. So there's that, there's the actual work itself. Yeah, beyond that, I think I spend all of my other time either trying to get a life outside of work or creating an avenue to add more value to myself. Like I said, I have other interests, especially around machine learning and AI. And so I do some online courses on that outside of my work hours. Yeah, that's it.
Sounds good. Sounds like a busy life and super active. So that's always a good thing. It'll keep you warm as well in the cold weather. So that's a plus. Um, Great. So, Adeline, any questions you'd like to choose from what was submitted from the community?
Yes, actually I do. And I wanted to know, Rukayat, what makes you unique, or why do you think you're the best fit for the position you have now?
Interesting.
Could you take that question again?
Yes. What makes you unique for the position you have now?
What makes me unique for the position I have now? So, two things for me. I think, well, not I think, I do know that I like to solve problems. I find better ways to want to solve a problem, and I always work towards being better at solving problems. So good problem solving skills and also being open to feedback. I ask a lot of questions and I try to make room for people to ask me questions, also to give me feedback. Um, I strongly believe no one's an island of knowledge. We all learn from each other, irrespective of whether you're junior, you're senior, or whatever level you are at. And so over time, I've had people tell me across different places of work that we like your problem solving ability and also your ability to seek and receive feedback from people. Those two will take you to a whole lot of places. And also, one more thing I'd like to add is, as engineers, we should always work also on our soft skills. A lot of people focus on technical skills and forget to develop their soft skills. It's very important to develop that to be able to interact with everyone on the team, both technical and non-technical people. Yes, so that's what helped me stand out.
I 100% agree with you, and I think, especially the last point you mentioned, is something that I think is not taken seriously enough, and it helps you greatly with your career, especially once you start to kind of reach that senior level. You know, you're close to being called a senior developer or product manager or designer or whatever your role is. Expectations from how you interact in the workplace, how you deal with your team, with your how you interact with even customers, clients that you might have, and everything else just makes all the difference. And I think those qualities, you know, can be developed. You just need to focus on them as well. So I think as much as you put energy on kind of learning the hard skills, whatever tool, language, or you know, whatever skill you're focused on, you should always be learning how to brush up on your soft skills as well. I hope, you know, people in our community also take that note as well and use it, because that's also one of the things that comes up a lot on interview processes, is how you interact, and that's also being monitored. It's not just your hard skills. Yeah, it makes sense to focus on that as well. That's a great point. Thank you so much, Rukayat. Any other questions, Adeline, that you liked?
Yes. What are the greatest work-life changes you are going through, and how could you have prepared for it?
Okay,
Do you want me to repeat again, or?
No, I did get that.
Okay.
Just need a moment. That's okay.
The greatest work-life changes I'm going through actually is being conscious of achieving a work-life balance. Before now, I'm usually the kind of person that would sit in front of my laptop every time, every day, every hour, so long as I'm awake. But I'm learning to have a life outside of work, and I encourage a lot of engineers to do that, because I've seen a lot of people who are in shoes I used to be in. How do I put it?
Basically, you're telling everyone to get a life, right?
Something like that. How did I prepare for that? So for me, it was being the only way I could prepare really was to actually decide I wanted to have a life outside of work and be deliberate about it. I jokingly tell people that when I started to want to have a life outside of work, I'll deliberately set a calendar invite for everything I have to do, and I make sure it keeps notifying me at intervals when the time is when it's the time to do what it is I have to do. Like I set a calendar invite to notify me that I have to leave the work in the next 15 minutes to 5 o'clock. And the notification is persistent till
Persistent.
The notification keeps popping up, and I get distracted by notifications, so I have to act on it. Find what works for you. Just make sure you're deliberate. For me, it was deliberately reminding myself that I had to do X, Y, Z at a particular time, and that's how I started getting used to doing things outside of work, but also making sure that whatever time I put into either work or anything after work, I am making the best use of, say, my 8 hours at work. So I need to deliver value for every 8 hours I have at work, because I do know that after 5 p.m. I want to be able to do something else outside of work.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it.
Fair enough, and good advice. So people get a life and balance it, right? Set an alarm, get out there, get some fresh air. That's great advice. I think I've also been guilty of that as well, and I think everyone has it at some point in their lives. So I think it's important to learn to balance it. I think you're more productive at work, you enjoy work more, and of course you enjoy your life more, and you have more energy. So yeah, great advice. Thank you so much, Rukayat.
We have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Valentine just asked what language you're working with presently, and if you still do the Nigerian Master of All Trades thingy.
Okay, so sorry. Did you get the question, or yeah?
The question is, what languages am I writing currently, and am I writing the Nigerian
Master of all trades. So I'm assuming. I think I know what he means. I think it's doing a little bit of everything, working with any of kind of being a generalist. So are you a generalist now, or are you not? And what does your set look like?
So I have never been a generalist. I was opportunity to work in a place where you're mostly not writing multiple languages at once, except maybe you're a full stack engineer and you're using JavaScript on the front end and Ruby on Rails on the back end, but you're not writing Golang and Scala and Python on the same project at once. No, I wasn't opportunity to work in that. So I have had experience working with multiple programming languages, but at every point in time on every project, I'm writing one language at that point in time. So currently I'm writing Ruby on Rails. It's a lot more popular in Canadian engineering firms rather. Yeah, so I'm currently writing Ruby on Rails. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And, any other questions you wanted to ask, Adeline?
Yes. Do you think that your work experience at Andela gave you any extra edge in being successfully matched and eventually employed by Influitive?
Yes. Yes, I would agree wholeheartedly. Like I said, Andela is a software engineering fellowship program that prepares you for being a world-class developer, and so it goes beyond coding. It's why I've said you should develop your soft skills. Those are things that the fellowship program trains you on. So, yeah. So there's been different things that I was exposed to at Andela, mostly around soft skills and also technical skills that helped accelerate my growth. And again, I'd like to emphasize on the soft skills. It's what gives you an edge over the average engineer. Average engineer is good at coding, but not good but maybe not good at managing stakeholders or managing expectations of these different stakeholders. Being able to interact with everyone on the team, your understanding what the steering committee of your project is and how to influence the decision positively, how to ensure that you're working towards the goal of building the project the right way, and all of that goes just beyond you writing the code. So all of those were skills I acquired working at and dealing with different people, different forms of stakeholders, and it has helped me a lot, and I'm sure it's going to take me a long way from here.
Okay, okay. Great. So are we done with the community questions, Adeline, or do we have?
I think so.
I think so. Okay, great. So I always have two final questions that kind of wrap up, I guess, our conversations. First, I'm going to ask you, and I think you've given a lot of this throughout this entire conversation, but what advice would you really want to pass on to other candidates in your shoes? I think you've learned a lot, and you seem to be someone who plans everything and has a good idea of what you want to achieve. So what if you were to summarize maybe 2-3 points that you would like to pass on to other candidates in your shoes, what would they be?
Is one thing I usually tell everyone when I'm asked to give advice, and it is focus on adding value to yourself. When I started out a little over 4 years ago, I used to be overwhelmed by things people who were ahead of me were doing, and I was always thinking, can I get there, or can I do this? How do I do this, or would I ever be able to do this? I didn't. At first, I didn't know how to get going. But then I take a step back, understand what it is I wanted, and identify what I needed to do to get there. And so kind of like have a learning map of what it is you need to do to get from point A to, for any point A to B you desire at any point in time. Focus on gaining skills and values that help you get there. So basically, there'll be things to worry about, like, would I ever get the right job I want? Would I ever get a better job? Would I get promoted to a senior engineer? But you do not need to worry about that, but instead focus on adding value to yourself. When you have the value, everything you want to keep running after you. But if you don't have that value you're adding to prospective employers, they wouldn't even come after you in the first place. So focus on adding value to yourself, and every other thing comes into play.
Okay, that's there's no arguing that. So absolutely, of course. And as you mentioned, not just your hard skills, but also your soft skills. Focus on that as well. And there's a lot that to be developed there. So Great. Any other advice, maybe regarding moving to Canada? Obviously, you should be prepared for cold, but anything else that they should be aware of?
I'll repeat that again. Be prepared for the weather. Be mentally and psychologically prepared for the weather. Maybe watch as much documentaries that actually focuses on what the weather in whatever country you want to move to is like. No, don't just depend on maybe what you see for a few minutes in the movies and all. Watch actual documentaries that gives you the experience, so you know what to do to prepare yourself for whatever country it is you choose to move to in the end, Canada or anywhere else.
Okay, good advice. Well, Rukayat, it's kind of the end of our show, and I always like to ask what you're looking forward to. What is next for you? What does the future look like for you, and what excites you about what might be coming next for you?
Uh, I'm guessing you're referring to my career and
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I'd like to repeat what the Google CEO had said in the Google I/O, the Developer First event, Google I/O, which I was opportunity to attend in 2017. He had said that in his keynote speech, he had said that we're moving from a mobile first approach to AI first approach. And what that means is every system is going to be smart, every system is going to be intelligent. And so when we're building applications, we're thinking intelligence, we're thinking smart systems. We already have smartphones, but are we building applications? Are we building systems that are compatible with this existing smart system? So for me, I've always had interest in intelligent systems, and everything I want to do, everything I've been doing for a while and what I want to do going forward should be channeled towards building intelligent systems. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at now, and that's what I'm looking at in the future. It's AI is people say AI is the future, but I think it's already here. It's here to stay already. So we all have to keep driving ourselves in that light.
Okay, amazing. And in terms of personal goals, do you have anything that you're achieving for, you're looking forward to, or anything that's you'd like to happen soon?
Technical wise.
No, I meant like personal wise. Maybe you're looking for an interesting trip to come, or go see somewhere in Canada, or I don't know, something you're looking forward to.
Oh, I have a very crazy fitness goal. I wish to lose half of my current weight. I'm working towards that. I hit the gym from the second day I arrived in Canada, and I've not missed the gym appointment since then. And so far, I've lost about 16 kg. And so, yes,
wow.
I'm working towards my goal.
Nice goal. Amazing, Rukayat. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've been inspired a lot by your story, your attitude towards how you approach life, and your journey from your career has been amazing. I think you're onto something good, and I'm happy that we were part of your story and we're able to help you connect with the right people to kind of take your next step. And I'm seeing you creating something in the AI scene somewhere in Canada. You're absolutely in the right environment for that to happen. So I'm happy that we got to be part of that story with you. And it was a pleasure talking to you today. I learned a lot, and I hope a lot of our guests, attendees as well, learned something from this interaction. We picked up some of, I think, the resource you mentioned, and some other stuff as well. We'll try to share with the community, but obviously the recording, the main thing is we'll post this recording and share it with the community as well after some editing. And we would love to hear more about your success, Rukayat. Keep in touch with our community. We might introduce some people who might need some help from you. Is that okay? Can we send some people in?
Sure, I'm always happy to help people.
Okay, amazing. The good thing is, So we already have a nice community in Canada, especially in Toronto. And so I think anyone who goes there already has an immediate group of a support group and friends that they can connect to. We would love to make sure that you guys see each other and kind of connect and network. So we're working on that. And as our community grows, hopefully more interesting things will happen there as well. Yeah, so that's the end of our chat. Thank you everyone. Thank you Rukayat, thank you Adeline, and the rest of our team and all the attendees. Hope to get to talk to you again soon with other success stories, and all the best to everyone. Have a good
Thank you, everyone.
day.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.